Welcome to the Core Women Podcast, the place for women entrepreneurs, authors, and self-starters looking to build community and gain valuable insights through expert interviews with women at the top of their game. Join your host, podcaster, producer, expert coach, entrepreneur, and author, Dr. Summer Watson, as she aims to inspire and empower you through these candid conversations. Lean in and embrace the journey. It's time to start the show. Here's your host, Dr. Summer Watson.
Today on the show, I would like to welcome Kim Fuller, who is a mindful photographer, mindfulness and story coach, award-winning author, TEDx speaker, and founder of Born to Rise. She empowers women to stand confidently in their power and beauty by transforming personal stories and fostering authentic expression through photography, storytelling, and mindfulness tools like her art of the pause method. We have so much to dive into. Welcome, Kim.
Hey, so happy to be here. Thank you, Summer.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to be here with you. I remember meeting you and I was thinking, oh my gosh, she has to be on the Core Women podcast. I was so taken with your story and how you help people. So I'm so glad you're here today. But before we dive deep into your professional journey, if you could describe, yes, your journey in one word to this point, what would that word be and why?
I would have to say awakening. I think just over the past probably almost 18 years now, it's been a real journey of awakening to who I am, to what I believe in, to how I see things, how I see the world, how I see others, and just awakening to a greater reality, I suppose, than what the mind wants to make me think is real.
Mm.
Lots there.
Okay, there's a lot there. So let's back this pony up a little bit. Okay, let's talk about that awakening. Let's talk about the journey before the awakening and how that evolved.
Yeah, so I wasn't raised with a lot of religion per se in my life, and I was going through something with a person, and I hadn't honestly had a lot of people that I struggled with. We talked about this a little earlier that I was a Navy kid, and so my length of time knowing someone was maybe a year and a half, 2 years max. So I didn't get to know people well. So I didn't struggle with them that much, honestly. But I was struggling with this one woman, and I didn't have anything to kind of look at or help me or support me in ways to think about this relationship I was having and the struggle and the sort of emotions around it all. But I was on a photo assignment, and this is something I've done for years, of course, is take photographs. And it was for a particular university here in town. And I'd been photographing for them for years. And I got the chance to shake the hand of the Dalai Lama. And in that moment of shaking his hand, I don't know exactly what was happening. At least I didn't then. I maybe am a little more aware now, but he was so present for all the people that he was shaking hands with, I'm sure. But for whatever reason, in that moment, I just felt something shift in me. I felt this overwhelming sense of love just flow over me. And I was kind of in a mood that day because I was assigned to a seat I didn't want to be in. I wasn't getting the pictures I wanted to get, and my ego was just out of control. But as soon as we locked eyes and shook hands, all of that just dissipated and went away. It got me super interested in what practices he had that allowed him to be so present and loving and compassionate for it seemingly everyone he was touching, especially me. In that moment, I realized I was here for that, not to get all these pictures I thought I was going to get. And it really propelled me to start studying the philosophies of Buddhism and mindfulness and mind training and understanding my mind. And after listening to his talk, it just seemed to make so much sense. And so I dove in, and it's been an awakening since then of just understanding how my mind works and understanding that it's not that different from other people's minds, because we create these stories or narratives based on our experiences and our conditioning and influences from other people. But sometimes they're not ours, they're other people's. And it's been projected onto us, right? We know that. So it's been an interesting journey.
Wow. A magical touch that led to so much change.
Yeah.
Somebody that was present, that you felt had this aura or spirit of connection with you in that moment. And it just seemed to just really consume you in a good way. And it took off. It took off from there. And so you've been on this journey or this path to also maybe even give just an inkling of that to others.
Yeah.
You've created so much since then. Let's talk about what inspired you to create Born to Rise and how it's impacted women you work with.
Yeah. Part of what I loved about, the Dalai Lama was this idea that he's a human being just like the rest of us. And he says this all the time. He's not a god, demigod. He's a human being. It was very inspiring. I thought, gosh, I'd really love to offer this kind of presence for others, right? Lo and behold, 2 years after meeting the Dalai Lama, my greatest spiritual teacher came along, who was my third child. And I met him at a group home where he was living, and we ended up adopting him into our family. And he challenged me to no end. He came with a lot of baggage, as you can expect, and traumas and all of this. And so his behaviors were very challenging. He was swirling in his own version of what reality was in his mind and what he believed about himself, which was very little, sadly. And I learned so much from him. And just to keep this kind of contained, I ended up writing a book, my first book. I never thought I'd be a writer, about our journeys of working with our minds together, of him healing through severe traumas and negative self talk and all the things. And I was practicing being more mindful and peaceful and loving and compassionate. And he taught me so much of that, really. And then right before the book was going to launch, I was in a coaching program and with a lot of women. It happened, and I saw this power of being in community with women. That was one thing. And then after writing the book, I got asked to do a TED talk, and I delivered that talk. And writing that talk and presenting it live was very different from writing it and presenting it in a book form. There was something about standing on that stage and kind of claiming all that I'd been through, what I had learned, and what I wanted to share. And then my son came out at the end, and he's now grown up, he's a teenager, and he stands in his story without saying a word. And I just felt this power of sharing our stories live and how healing that layer was of doing it live like that and having this receptive audience. I think not long after that is when I was in a meditation, and Born to Rise just kind of downloaded. Is like, you need to create this for more people. Not everyone's going to do a TED Talk or the Moth or any of these other storytelling platforms that are a little more high end, if you will. So I thought, gosh, wouldn't this be cool? So I just kind of started. I had my first event. 60 people came, and it was crazy. I thought, wow, this is something.
That is really something. Holy cow. 60 people, first event. That spoke to a lot of people, Kim.
Yes, it made me realize how much we all wanted these real stories. It was created as a women's event or women's voices to be heard, but anyone was welcome to come. And I was blown away. I honestly was blown away by how cool it was. Like, women, when given the opportunity, of course, anybody, they want to be heard and seen. And we don't get those opportunities. People don't ask us those questions a lot unless we're on a podcast like this or something. And so I encourage those conversations. I encourage people to ask deeper questions because I think we all want to be seen and known on a deeper level. I really do. And there's so much power and connection when we know someone that way. And so learning to be present as someone is sharing that story is really part of the experience as well. So it's not only the telling, but it's learning to listen and be awakened to another perspective or another way of doing something that perhaps you can learn from and that you didn't think of before, or helps you navigate another relationship that's going on in your life, whether it's with someone else or yourself. So it's just been magical, Summer.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds magical. It sounds like an incredible evolution, an incredible experience, multiple experiences that brought you to today. And there have been so many things that you have touched on in regards to people being conditioned, what has been modeled, even your son that you adopted, what his challenges were and how he was struggling because of that conditioning and the modeling, what was told to him. And, as somebody who's been in the human services field, one of those people that is a doctor, a philosopher, a theorist from years ago, he deviated from Freud. His name was Alfred Adler. And he said, when people lack purpose, and they don't understand their value, that's when they start depressing. That's when they start separating from others. And it's true when you see that lack of purpose, when you see that separation from self and the other, because people do want to be part of a community. And if they don't feel part of that community or don't feel included or don't know how to ask the questions or don't see a model which actually aligns with their own values, even before we know what our values are, we can internally and intrinsically feel that, right? So it's like something that we know, but maybe can't identify just yet. And so that's why we continue to work on or struggle with actually until we find out, aha, this is what has changed me. This is the pinnacle. This was that touch that day that made such an impact for you. And other people, it may not be that handshake, but it could be something else that is that aha moment. And it could be that talk, that Born to Rise talk. It could be that book. And it also could be the art of the pause. Let's talk about your art of the pause, what that stands for, what that method is, and how this helps individuals cultivate mindfulness and creativity.
Yeah, so some of the work I'm doing now is helping people navigate and uncover or unravel those stories that we've told ourselves, right? From this experience of hearing all these stories, I realized asking certain women to, share their stories, they're like, I don't have a story. I'm like, oh, you've got a story, honey. So it's like, how do we help people unravel and look at those stories that we've seen? So the pause method can be used in so many ways, but basically the first letter, P, is to pause, to slow down, to become present. And, everyone says, oh, just be present, but not even, of course, knows what that even means, right? And so being present is really just tuning into what's happening in the here and the now, and not the thread of thoughts that might be coming through as we're slowing down, which is what often is scary for people in meditation because they haven't actually listened to those thoughts. And when they start to, they're like, oh my God, I can't do this. There's so much going on up there. So the P is to pause. A is to become aware. Just noticing that you have thoughts, noticing that you have sensations in your body, noticing that there's something that's emotionally triggering or feels like something that's in your heart or your stomach or your head, and just becoming aware of where those sensations live and the kinds of thoughts that are there. So we're never going to get rid of thoughts. We're just going to learn to become aware of them so we can work with them. And same with emotions and sensations and all of that. So pause, slow down, A, become aware. The U is about understanding impermanence. So we understand that everything changes. And so that even when we're sitting with this chaotic brain, is just to understand that it's always changing. Life is changing. People are changing. The weather is changing. Everything is changing. And it's impacting everything we do. And so it helps us not become attached to things, to experiences, to beliefs, to anything, because we know it's going to change. The S is about shifting your perspective, looking at something from a different side, because oftentimes we get locked and loaded into the way we see something. Well, okay, someone comes along and has a different idea or a different belief or a different anything. Just take a minute and go, oh, okay, let me just listen. Let me just see what their perspective is. We might grow from that experience. And then the E is to explore. Once you hear that new perspective, maybe you can try something different for yourself, especially if you've been stuck or locked into something. So P.A.U.S.E, just pause. So if nothing else, walk away with the idea of just taking a minute to slow down and check in. And maybe ask yourself, how are you today, Kim? How are you today, Summer? We don't even ask ourselves that, much less anyone else asking us, unless it's, we've got a great partner or friend, of course. So that's the method. And you can apply that so many ways, whether you're in a heated relationship, you're trying to navigate something new, you're trying to just find some clarity, any of it.
I absolutely love that acronym and what it stands for. It is so fluid. It's so understandable.
I lead entire workshops just on that 5-step thing because it can be really rich or it can be super simple.
Absolutely. I can see why you would have an entire workshop or a weekend really going through the pause. Pausing is an opportunity to slow down, to reflect, to understand, to really gain some clarity about what's happening right now. I love the pause and the creativity, the peace, and the empowerment that comes with that.
Yes.
A lot of times we don't even know where to begin.
Right.
We go from conditioning into our lives, and then we come to these moments of reflection and go, what's going on here? I don't understand this, or we struggle, right? And it's like this tug of war within ourselves, and yet we know something's going on. And so that's why the pause can be so simple, yet also very complex.
It's something that, sitting in meditation, what I often hear is, oh, I can't meditate. And I don't think people understand what it is, but the more you can simply pause, and even if you're just at your desk and just become aware of sounds in the room, become aware of the sensations of your feet on the ground or your bottom in the seat, become aware of your heartbeat, just even finding a sense of gratitude for the fact that your body is running on its own. You don't even have to do anything. But it's when you notice that something's off, whether there's a pain, you're feeling anxious, that's when you can learn to become aware. And the more you practice sitting and becoming aware of those feelings, like if you're anxious and you simply pause and say, where do I feel anxiousness? That alone gives you something to work with. You can either breathe into it, take some moments to just relax, reset, notice what the mind is saying. Is it true or not? Is that what's creating the anxiety? I'm not enough. I'm never going to get this done. Da, da, da. That's not present. That's out here or back there, right? And so when we can just simply see what we're doing, then we can have choice. We can say, okay, that's something I'm making up. I can do this. It may be challenging, but what do I need to make it happen? Do I need support? Do I need to just take my time? Do I need to step away for a minute and come back? Do I need more research? Whatever that is. So when we can become aware by slowing down and just getting to know ourselves, that's when we can work with it without it being so challenging. That's it. So the awareness piece is a big practice, but the more you do it, the quicker it happens.
Absolutely. It reminds me of something that I always talk about, and that is how we create brain maps, right? And these maps in our brains that we tend to return to, or those maps in our brains that have been created over time because of that conditioning, and how we can break certain maps to really develop those in a way and structure those in a way that are more meaningful and mindful to us. And that has to do with that awareness, that pause. And something else that is really important, it's understanding and listening to yourself and to your body and using your body as a barometer for what's happening. And I think a lot of times, Kim, we move past that. Oh, yeah, that's fine. We're not feeling what we're feeling. Or if we are, we have this day to attend to, and we don't have time for that. There is time for the pause. There really is. And when you do it, I think because there are all these swirling things that are in our brain, we tend to be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so the idea of storytelling and being mindful in that storytelling, all the things that you actually facilitate during your webinars, during your trainings, so important because it gives some of the foundation to being able to understand how to do this
Yeah.
and to give that outline, because if we don't have some steps to go by, sometimes we really get lost, but those steps are going to help recreate that map, that conditioning in a way that aligns with who you are, your internal strength, your vision for yourself, your own mission, your values, rather than it being somebody else's, being somebody else's map, being somebody else's conditioning, being somebody else's exterior words that you keep going back to in your brain because they've been there for so long. You can have the opportunity to change this with both your story as well as with the pause.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that I've really learned is that I can only take care of myself. But in that doing, I'm able to then be more present and mindful and caring for others. But until I deal with my own stuff, I'm going to be projecting all over other people because I haven't figured out my own stuff. And that's really been the journey. Is, people always say, "Oh, you're so self-centered about you're only taking care of you." And I'm like, well, it's the only person I can really take care of, honestly, or change or make any big choices around. So I've got to do that first. And once I realized that, it really changed a lot of things for me because I was projecting all over my husband, my kids, my this and that, the blame, the whole thing. And just realizing that, no, it's my stuff. I've got to figure out who I am before I can even understand them. So it's been a powerful awakening. My first word, just
Yeah,
understanding reality.
absolutely. And I want to add something to that as well. It's interesting how people might say, well, that's selfish to think of the I, to think of me. And yet, I don't think many times we do that because we're taught not to do that. And we depart from ourselves so much. And then we become overwhelmed at times with, well, they need this, they need that, they need this. I got to take care of them. I got to take care. And you forget about yourself. And when you forget and depart from self, you're not taking care of yourself. How do they expect you to take care of them? Or even better, when you need something, how do you ask for help? Because you've been so conditioned not to and not to take care of yourself. And how do you ask for help when you may not even know what's going on? So, how are you asking them and for what? So, it's very important to take care of yourself and identify what's going on with you, having those points of reflection, having that pause. So, everything that you're talking about is so critically important, just foundationally, for us to be healthier.
I think too, like what I've learned is that I'm not going to help anyone until they ask me. I'm going to show up as present as possible because most times people know exactly what they want to do. They either want validation or a little clarity or something like that. And I'm there to listen. But most people know really down deep, but they just want a sounding board a lot of times. I don't need to fix anyone. No one's really broken per se. They're just maybe a little lost or confused, or they need some support or haven't figured it out yet. But I don't want to fix anyone. And it's not my job really, unless they ask for my advice. That's one thing I've really learned is I don't offer advice unless they ask for it or sign up for a program or hire me or whatever it is. But my role is to show up present and be available for what they need. I've done it with my kids, with my husband now, and just empower them by just saying, I trust that you have everything you need to fix yourself. But
Yeah.
if you need me, I'm here for you.
Well, absolutely. And I think that's exactly what I meant in that being able to even get to that place where you can ask for help or know that you need help is so important because we don't. We
Right.
tend not to because we're the helpers. And because we, especially as women, have been brought up in this community mentality that we are part of a community, we're going to help our community, be that our family, the bigger context of that. And by the way, we're part of that community. So we can't separate ourselves from that community in the sense that we are part, but don't forget about yourself in all of that as well. And when you need help, it's okay to ask for it. And because people, they're going to willingly, this is just human nature, they offer, but they don't necessarily know if that's the exact help you need. But I want to tell people it's important to be able to ask when you do need it. It's
Absolutely.
so critically important. So we have covered so much. I mean, we could go on to multiple interviews just talking about the P, the A, the U, the S, and the E. Each one of those could be an interview. But as we come to the close, and we've talked about so much about the importance of personal story, the importance of pause, how you're born to rise, and we've touched on these things, but as we come to the close of the interview, when you reflect on past experiences of working with people, what is the one tip that they've learned from you that's impacted their lives or where they found helpful integrating into their daily routines?
I would say learning to listen. In most of the workshops I'm doing, whether it's learning to listen to themselves or learning to be present and listen to others in a new way. I think that's such a powerful tool to have in your tool belt, is to be able to slow down and listen to what's going on in your own thoughts and understanding those so that you can work with yourself. And when you're present for other people and really learn to listen to other people, that's such a gift that you're giving them, because oftentimes we're interrupting each other, or, oh yeah, me too, or whatever that might be, which is fun and fine. That happens in conversations. But when someone really needs to be listened to and have that space to be heard, it's such a beautiful gift to offer. And I think when we do our story exchanges, when I work with them around their own inner narratives, they're learning to listen. They're learning to listen with care and compassion, and it really connects us more deeply.
What a great tip. And thank you, Kim, for being on the Core Women podcast with me today.
My pleasure. I loved it, Summer, so much.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it as well. You can follow Kim Fuller on LinkedIn and IG at born.to.rise and on Facebook at Born to Rise Women's Story Festival.
Thank you for joining us on the Core Women podcast with Dr. Summer Watson. We're so glad you're here and would love to connect more with you. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Core Women, and on Twitter at Core Women 1. For more about Core Women and Dr. Watson, visit corewomen.com. Want more support and resources for amazing women like you? Great! Join Dr. Watson and Jen Fontanilla at the Life, Love, and Money Collective, a Core Women production that aids in understanding the key traits that might be getting in the way of living a life that you are absolutely passionate about. Connect with Summer and Jen and find out more at thelifeloveandmoney.com.